Welcome to Absolute Counter, Episode 4.
Leg drops and figure fours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Absolute Counter. This is Darkscream.
And this is Magus.
So how's your week been going? The past couple of weeks.
Aside from personal stuff, which, as you know, everyone knows, I do not talk about personal stuff on the internet, right? Even my Facebook, I don't. Everything's been okay. Got a new car. I'm happy. So there you go.
Oh, that's
what about
cool.
You?
It's been a pretty mellow week for me so far. In terms of video games, I played a little more of ARMS for the Switch, which for some reason I'm kind of semi-addicted to.
Okay. I haven't played ARMS yet.
It's a very interesting boxing game.
Okay.
There's a lot of fun mechanics, and there's some interesting gameplay modes because not all of it is just a one-on-one or even a multiplayer brawl match. There's like a gameplay mode where it's like volleyball and one that's like basketball where you have to like put your opponent through a hoop. But for some reason I just keep going back to that game and still enjoying it.
Yeah. It's something I need to play. Nintendo's pretty inventive though. You gotta give them credit for that. Although there's one thing they haven't been inventive with, and they're still struggling with for whatever reason. That's online play, right?
Yeah, in the next installment of news of, God damn it, what the hell are you doing here, company? I like you, but I have to call you out on your bullshit. Due to some other personal reasons of mine, I can't buy Super Mario Maker 2 yet. But this year, there's been a pattern where games where I hold off on always have like an annoying feature to that makes me glad I didn't buy it or pre-order it. Mortal Kombat 11 with the whole microtransaction grind shit made me glad I didn't buy that game at launch. Mario Maker 2 made me glad I didn't buy that game at launch because they announced that they weren't going to have you play multiplayer mode with your friends.
Not cool.
No, that's dumb.
That is very dumb. Here's the key thing. Multiplayer, when you have a multiplayer mode, I think friends is more important than just randoms.
I agree.
And that is true. And it's a fact. Every multiplayer game has friends. You know what I mean? And there's a reason for that. Because when you play with randoms, you get some horseshit people, right? And it's kind of funny considering if you look at the NES app on the Switch, right? The one for online, that has multiplayer only for friends, and that doesn't bother me. I could be like, hey, Darkstream, you want to go play some hockey with me? And we could play hockey.
Or River City Ransom, or anything else there that has 2 players available.
And to be honest, I'd rather play with you, especially something like River City Ransom, than something like that where, you know, in River City Ransom, you can accidentally hit your person. If Darkstream hits me on accident, I ain't going to get mad. It's an accident. It happens, right?
Right.
But sometimes randoms, like, for example, I was playing the beat-em-ups on the beat-em-up classic last fall a lot, the Capcom beat-em-ups, and I would play with randoms, and I would accidentally hit them and say final fight, and they would start attacking me and ruin the game. So that's why I think friend multiplayer is more important. I know there's going to be people who say, oh, well, what about randoms? You could go in and go through the leaderboards. Well, no. You want to play with friends no matter what. Local play.
I don't give a shit about competitive play in a goddamn Mario platformer game. I'm not going to tournaments or esports or any of that shit. I just want to play that game with Big Al and some of my other Switch friends. We go try out some of their stages or some other people's stages and have a good time. You know, because as chaotic as the multiplayer was in Super Mario Brothers Wii, I still had a lot of fun playing it with friends, even though I would screw them over and take some extra lives for myself.
Oh shit! But you know what? You had fun, right? You had fun.
I'm not gonna have fun with a bunch of randos who just want to play competitively or grief. It's so
And even
Nintendo.
that, like,
Jesus, man, you're
and
dumb.
even they, I'll talk about that in a second. Nintendo being dumb. The thing with this whole Mario Maker thing and all that. Think about New Super Mario Brothers U, released this January, re-released for the Switch, which I have, right?
Right?
There's no online multiplayer at all, not even friends, but there is local multiplayer. That does not bother me. You know why?
Why?
Again, I wouldn't mind just getting a few of my friends and we play it together. We play as is, right? And then that's it. I don't need to go. And plus, that's a game you can solo easy. That's a good solo game anyway.
And Nintendo, up until this point, was actually doing well with local multiplayer and friends because the Joy-Cons that they have on their things, you could just give the other person a Joy-Con and then they can play the game that way. The controller's going to be a little tiny and weird, but it's better than nothing.
Let's be honest. As much as I think the N64 is my least favorite Nintendo console.
Ooh, hot take.
Yeah, that's a hot take. Xander actually is on the same page with me on that. We actually mentioned it on the episode. Well, as of the release of this episode of ours, it'll Blast Podcasting's newest episode would have come out the week before.
Nice.
But that's the thing that's crazy about this is the N64 really upped the ante with local multiplayer. Now, the Super Nintendo kind of started to do that with Mario Kart and then like the Super Bomberman games, but not to the extent that the N64 did. And ever since the N64 has done that, every Nintendo console has mastered in one way or the other local multiplayer. We could agree on that.
Like the first two local multiplayer games I had on the N64 were Mario Kart 64 and NBA Hang Time. And my friends would always come over to my house and we would just play the living shit out of both of those games.
And that was one appeal, going to NBA Hang Time, because you had NFL Blitz, those midway arcade sports games, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Over to the top. You could get them on PlayStation, but the difference between the PlayStation and the N64 was the PlayStation was the system where you wanted more cerebral, more emotional experiences. You wanted emotional storytelling, you played Metal Gear Solid, Xenogears, Final Fantasy VII, whatever, right? It was designed for those. The N64, and I'm just saying I don't like it as much because Nintendo systems do have that emotional game. Even the Switch does, you know? Those emotional games that pull you in. But the N64 was a pure party machine, practically.
Hence why that's how Mario Party started.
Yeah.
It started on
Mario
that
Party. Yeah. So I think Nintendo has nailed down local multiplayer. Online, I don't understand why they haven't gotten it. Let's look at the Nintendo Online system right now for the Switch. I'm not overly critical of it as some people because it's $20 a year. I got a free year just now because of that Amazon promo. I claimed my other 9 months. Okay? So I got another year free of it. I think by doing things like Tetris 99 being offered for online subscribers, the NES, and then possibly, I bet you at E3 in a couple weeks, Darkstream, we're going to have that SNES reveal.
Maybe. I'm not trying to set up expectations for E3. I just want to see what happens when it happens.
That's my only two expectations is that one. That's probably the more long shot one. The other one is Final Fantasy VII Remake info, which we know is coming at E3.
Yes, we do. And how Tifa is going to be designed is going to make or break people's expectations.
From what I'm hearing, it's going to be the same exact costume.
Oh, okay. Let's hope.
Dude, imagine how fucking hot and sexy she would look.
I know it's gonna piss. Yeah, I know it's gonna piss off "quote unquote" game journos. Dude, that character was like a victim of so much bashing 4 or 5 years ago, unfairly.
Well, remember about 4 or 5 years ago, we also had the Dragon's Crown.
Yeah, they ripped on that character for no reason either. The sorceress.
And the Amazon.
And the Amazon.
Yeah. But you know what? That's the beautiful thing about Japan. They're politically incorrect. I don't see Square Enix conforming to those.
That's where I'm going to have to disagree with you, bruh.
Why? Oh, because it's Sony?
Yeah, not only Sony, but I remember a couple years back like shortly after the gameplay trailer back when CyberConnect was working on it. I remember I believe it was Nomura or someone else from Square Enix saying that they may have to alter their games to adhere to modern sensibilities or some shit like that.
But they didn't. You know why? I'll give you.
Well, we don't know until the full fucking franchise is out.
Oh, I know that, but I'm saying there was proof after that statement was made that they didn't conform. Final Fantasy 15, that mechanic chick.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, this what was it, cut-offs, short ass cutoffs or whatever, and all that, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm not too worried about it. And like I said, there's also talk that the cross-dressing sequence is going to be kept in. So
that's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, it's gonna give a reaction, but I'm
gonna love that scene so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll probably talk more Final Fantasy once E3 comes out, right?
Right.
Yeah, we'll probably do an E3 show. But but going to your point though, we went all the way off track from what you were saying about Nintendo Online. Nintendo does things. It's weird with online because for the longest time with their hardware, they would do things right, but they would take a step back.
Yeah.
And I think everything fine with the Switch. Everything with the Switch, pretty much about 85% of the Switch, they've done right. The online is still where they're messing up. Now, one thing I will say is I don't need Hulu. Well, they have Hulu on there, but I don't need Amazon Prime or Netflix on my Switch. I just don't feel like I need it.
I don't need YouTube either.
Wouldn't
I
you
have
agree?
the app. I wouldn't need it. And no, I wouldn't need Hulu or Netflix or Hulu, although that would be nice. I wouldn't mind just pulling that thing out and, I don't know, popping in an episode of Gundam The Origin or something in the background. But what I'm hoping for, in the case of Mario Maker 2, that they listen to the criticism and find a way to patch in a local a multiplayer where you can play with your friends, just like you could with Smash or Splatoon or anything else. Because the game looks damn near perfect with the exception of that, from what I'm seeing so far.
Well,
well, actually, I still have more things to cover this week. I finally finished the story mode to Injustice 2.
How did you like it?
I did enjoy it. It was pretty bittersweet, but I actually did end up liking it. It was a pretty interesting follow-up to the first game for sure.
Let me ask you this. What ending did you choose?
I chose the bad ending first.
The Superman ending.
Yes, the Superman is still an asshole ending.
Okay.
And then afterwards I went and got the good ending, the Batman ending.
Okay.
Obviously, I prefer the latter ending over the former.
Right.
But it was still pretty. I didn't want to give too much. I'm not ready to spoil the game right away. But it is a typical DC Comics Justice League story mode, except it's set in this weird universe where Superman, due to a tragic event, has gone dictatorial crazy now. The good news is it doesn't involve. It's exclusively set in their own universe. It doesn't involve a weird cross-dimension universe like the first game.
But let's say something about
the bad news is we're stuck with the bad Superman.
Yeah. Let's say something about NetherRealm, though. They really got it down on how to tell a story in a fighting game, though.
I saw the story mode to Mortal Kombat 11.
They didn't? Okay.
No.
Well, up to Injustice 2, though.
Yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat X wasn't as good as Mortal Kombat 9's, but I still liked it. Injustice 1 and 2, they were pretty good. Hopefully they don't screw it up with Injustice 3 if they make it Injustice 3.
Oh, you know they will. Those games sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, they do. Well, I'm curious to see what they're going to go from there.
Well, it's a DC universe is huge, man.
Yeah. I do like the guest characters they added in the game. I was probably one of the few people that marked out when they confirmed that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were going to be guest characters.
No, you did not mark out. I marked out.
Oh, I marked out too.
Okay, so we weren't that So you what other gaming news you got?
I think that's it for gaming news. The last thing I've been playing, and I put a lot of time into this game, is World End Syndrome. I talked briefly about it last episode. I've put more hours into it. I believe I'm near halfway, 100% completed. The game had a very interesting start because it was like a straightforward visual novel, and you just go through the ropes, make some decisions that don't really branch off to anything. And then, and it's about like 3 hours in. 3 hours in, you get to make only one decision, and that triggers an immediate bad ending.
Oh.
And then you load up a save earlier, and then a new decision sets up, and that's when the game actually fucking starts.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and then you just basically explore around town, talk to various characters, see what character route you're going to go in, and at the same time trying to figure out this freaking like zombie mystery that they have going on with these murders and stuff.
That sounds pretty good.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to finish it sometime within the week or so.
Okay. Well, I'll check that one out. I've got some news I want to talk about real quick. Go ahead.
It's $40 on the Switch.
I gotcha.
It's a visual novel, but yeah,
I'll check it out.
Yeah, cool.
But I got some Switch news that I just remembered I want to talk about briefly. The old BioWare games are coming to the Switch.
Ooh, which
so
ones?
So the two these aren't the two BioWare games, but they're the Infinity Engine. So you got Planescape Torment and you got Icewind Dale coming out on the Switch. You've got Baldur's Gate 1 with all its expansions, Baldur's Gate 2 with all of its expansion coming to the Switch. You have Neverwinter Nights coming out to the Switch.
Huh.
Now, I own them all on PC. And my only concern is, how are those games going to work? Now, one thing that's interesting is none of those games have ever gotten console releases. Never. And I kind of understand it. I'm not a PC elitist by any means. You know that. But those games were made for the PC.
Yeah, especially Neverwinter Nights. That game had like a freaking
the DM editor, which I fucking adore. I fucking love. I used to run campaigns through that thing with my own storytelling and make my own mods.
It's a very complex system too. I don't know how they're going to put that on the Switch, if they put that on the Switch.
I don't know if they will, because remember, Larian did put their own DM thing into Divinity Original Sin 2.
Huh.
They didn't put it into the console versions. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that's not in there. But it might be. This is why I have a sneaking suspicion. The other 4 games that they're releasing come in double packs, right?
Right. All right. Let's hear it.
Okay, so the double packs is Planescape Torment, Icewind Dale. The other pack is the 2 Baldur's Gate games, right?
Right.
Neverwinter Nights comes out by itself.
Okay. Anything?
Oh.
I thought there was more.
Oh no. Those are the 5 games.
So well, that's a good selection, but I was really hoping Jade Empire was going to be released too.
No, these are the games that BioWare themselves don't own.
Oh.
Beamdog Studios and I think Atari owns those games.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not part of the BioWare entity, which EA has royally fucked up, because of that game Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda and other such shrill. But at least we're getting good old BioWare games. And if you've never played Baldur's Gate 2, you need to play Baldur's Gate 2. That is one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion.
That's interesting. That's going to be a fun thing to play on the Switch.
Would you buy any of those?
Probably the Baldur's Gate collection, because I keep hearing great things about them. I just haven't got around to touching them.
Let me tell you this. The first game is okay. And for its time, you could tell it hasn't aged well. But I will tell you this, because I played it last summer. I beat it, right?
Right.
I played through Baldur's Gate 2 last summer. And that game has aged excellently and is so much better in so many ways than Baldur's Gate 1. Because Baldur's Gate 1 got redundant. Baldur's Gate 2 isn't. So if you do get them, you could play them if you want, but you could really just play the second game, and the second game has a prologue that tells you the story. So
yeah, I might just skip to the second game because I'm not the kind of guy who likes to start franchises from the very beginning, because the first games are always the jankiest and the roughest around the edges, and it's like it doesn't get good by the second or third game. And I'm like, I'd rather just jump straight to the second or third game. Like, for example, Witcher 3, freaking fantastic game. And I keep telling people about it, and all they can tell me is, well, I'm still playing the first one. I'm seeing gameplay footage of the first Witcher game. I don't even know how you could get through that, or any of that. It was like, okay, like the combat has this weird timing thing with the mouse clicks in order to do the attacks. Obviously, the graphics are not as well done, and the voice acting was just horrid.
Right.
Like only three voice actors were throughout the whole series, including Geralt's. And Geralt's voice actor is great, but in the first game, he was definitely he definitely had some jank to it. He didn't really grow into the character until the second game.
That's how I felt about Neon Genesis, the original dub, and all that. By the way, that's still actually just a rumor. They don't know if it's the original dub or a new dub.
The way it keeps talking, it sounds like it is going to get redubbed regardless.
We'll find out in about, 2 weeks?
I guess. I'm not going to watch it, though. If I want to watch Evangelion, I still have my old-ass DVD collection.
I don't. It got stolen, so I got to watch it.
Fuck.
And then we get Death True, so there you go. So, anyway, we're running... I think we're... I got... The other piece of news is a follow-up from last week, my friend.
Right? Okay, what is it?
Did you listen to those podcasts?
I listened to the Eric Bischoff podcast on God, what was it? 84 Weeks, and I watched I listened to the Bash at the Beach 2001, because that was the one where Hogan cut a promo and then Jeff Jarrett showed up, and once the bell rang, Jarrett fell on his fucking back while Russo got pissed and threw the title on the floor or some shit.
Right.
And then fucking Hogan's like, this is why this company's into shares, because of bull crap like this. But yeah, I haven't gotten around to listening to his podcasts. I've been like just busy with a bunch of other shit.
But you like that one though.
It's good so far, yeah.
But they're long podcasts. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I have a backlog of other gaming podcasts. I like to listen to Castle Super Beast and Magus 64.
I don't listen to many gaming podcasts, surprisingly. I listen to Xander's show, and there's a Nintendo one that I like that I listen to. I listen to the official Nintendo podcast, which I don't mind, but it's an advertisement. The Nintendo Power Podcast, So yeah, I listen to. Those are the only real gaming podcasts I listen to. There's one that I will never listen to, and they can fuck off, but that's beside the point. Anyway, now that we're on the topic of wrestling, my friend, I want to ask you about AEW real quick. What did you hear about?
I've heard great things about AEW. That their Double or Nothing pay-per-view did pretty well. Almost everyone liked it, except for Jim Cornette, I think.
And funny enough, I was actually listening to his podcast, and he was going to review it. And the thing he said that was interesting was half of it was good and half of it wasn't.
That is actually kind of a high compliment by Jim Cornette standards. If it's half and half, then that must mean it has to be okay to him.
He's very picky about wrestling.
I mean, I've heard his podcast on the latest WrestleMania, and boy, ooh.
Oh, he don't like WWE.
Oh no, he doesn't. The only thing he hates worse than WWE is Vince Russo. Dear God.
Oh yeah, he needs to chill out with that though. I'm not a big Russo fan myself, but harboring that much hatred for someone is not healthy.
Well, you didn't work with Russo for years. He unfortunately did, so.
Well, I worked with someone for years, and there you go. I don't wish to piss on their grave.
But I've seen like a highlight reel of some of the matches, and Yeah, it looks like it's solid entertainment so far. So there is potential that they can reignite the Monday Night Wars now that they're coming to TNT this
Right.
fall. And I really want them to. I really want them to have at it because WWE desperately needs some competition because their recent episodes are like the worst of WCW
Well,
in their dead years.
I'm going to recommend another podcast to you.
All right,
This one you need to listen before we record.
you
Chris Jericho did an interview with Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose.
yeah.
This blew up the wrestling world. He describes how much of a clusterfuck the creative process is in WWE.
Okay, I just Googled just now Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and yeah, spoilers for the pay-per-view. Moxley interfered on Jericho and Kenny Omega's match, shocked everyone because people knew him as Dean Ambrose and saw him jump ship. I saw his promo claim to do this as a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyways, I just Googled it, and there's a video by Wrestling Universe that says Jon Moxley shoots on Vince McMahon buries WWE creative. Wade Keller
Yep.
interview part 1. Okay, I don't see the part 2 though.
He did an interview with Wade Keller, and then he did an interview with Jericho. The Jericho one blew up the internet last week.
Okay, I gotta listen to the Jericho one.
Listen to the Jericho one.
All right.
It's interesting, and you can tell. I watched the pay-per-view. I watched AEW, and I can tell you, I have not seen wrestling like that. Maybe in the mainstream, and when I say mainstream, mostly WWE.
That's pretty much the only one in the mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some
Yeah.
underground stuff here and there. I mentioned Lucha Underground, and that's
ROH.
good wrestling, but it's
Yeah.
not going to get to that tier level. It's basically like a modern ECW.
Right. And then there's there's of course ROH, which I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed MLW, but the thing that was crazy about AEW, All Elite Wrestling, was the way they did the presentation and how it was very surprising. One of the things that was interesting too was the way the show was. I would say, except with the exception of the unveiling of the belt, the show was pretty much nothing but wrestling. There and the end of the Cody the Rhodes Brothers match. There was really not a lot of promos. Or promo segments, I should say. There weren't really any promo segments.
That's good.
And that's interesting because if you watch Raw, there's so many promo segments that are scripted like shit. Here's the reason why I watch WWE from the pay-per-views. You still get good matches from them. The storylines, they're not that great. The matches themselves tell the story better than their promos. And that's where they're suffering. I mean, and they do dumb shit like the New Day guys, I like them personally. I like Xavier Woods from his YouTube channel and all that. But them throwing pancakes and fucking bootios and all that dumb shit, I don't really need that. You know what I mean? And what I got from AEW, especially with the Rhodes Brothers match, was a classic bloody mess.
Oh yeah, dude. Dustin had basically, it looked like he had just strawberry jam thrown on his face at the end of the match.
Exactly. This was gritty adult wrestling. And I'm going to say it this way, adult. Let me explain something. I know people are going to say, well, they already did that with the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era had adult themes, but they weren't exactly mature. What do I mean? There were some storylines that were just goofy as fuck. Like there was that Alla Singh guy who would go out and make people do embarrassing things. Or, you had porn star wrestlers, you had pimp wrestlers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just thinking about The Godfather.
Exactly. Or Val Venus, And I like those guys. And the Attitude Era was a product of its time. But in a sense, it was still kind of like an adult cartoon. It was still cartoony. I know people say that the cartoony era was the new generation, with the highlights being like stuff like Mankind and Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. But, when you had Doink and that, I think it was like they went from Animaniacs from the Attitude Era to South Park.
Hmm.
And even at that, the stuff is still cartoony now. And I think when you watch AEW, at least what I saw of it, it's an adult-themed wrestling match. Now, there's some weird things like Kylie Ray. She's a female wrestler. Her character's kind of like Bailey a little too much. But other than that, those last 4 matches demonstrated how emotional and how dark and the beauty of serious wrestling storytelling is.
Sweet. I can't wait to pick it up on Blu-ray.
You do that, my friend. But yeah. It's amazing. And I can't wait till the weekly show to see how they...
I definitely want to catch the premiere of that.
I will definitely. That's going to be interesting to see how that... It's interesting because from what I understand, this is how they're going to approach pay-per-views. They're not going to do a lot of promos. It's just going to be the matches. I wonder how they're going to approach the weekly show, though.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. But this would be a perfect time to segue into our topic. We were on wrestling, so why not we talk about wrestling video games or things wrestling related in video games or just wrestling characters in video games in general. Obviously, being a wrestling fan, I did play a good amount of wrestling games. I played some WWF on the NES. I can't remember the name of the game, but it was a WrestleMania game. It did have characters like Andre Hogan, Roddy Piper.
I know which one you're talking about.
But my memories are vague on that. I really didn't get into the wrestling games until the N64 era when I played WCW versus NWO World Tour. And then after that, there was Revenge, which had Bill Goldberg. And I think I took a break from most wrestling games. I played some of the WWF games, but they weren't as good as the ones made from WCW that had the Aki engine in it. Yeah. And then about a console generation later, I picked up WWE Shut Your Mouth. Well, I rented the game, and I really liked it. I liked how the season mode was basically kind of like an RPG. Where you actually get to make decisions and stuff, and which will lead to title matches or feuds or whatever. And I liked that a lot, so I picked up the sequel, Here Comes the Pain. That was like the first PlayStation 2 game I ever bought because I saved up a PS2 with my own money at the time. And then I played the wrestling games yearly. It became SmackDown versus Raw all the way up until 2007. And I took another break from that, and I picked up, I believe it was WWE 13. That was the one that had the Attitude Era roster in it, and that's why I went back to that game, because they were still doing PG crap, but at the same time, retro Stone Cold, Rock, Mankind, I wanted to go back to those guys.
Yeah, sounds like that's a lot of games. What do you remember from those N64 ones, though?
I remember that that when I didn't play the game, I wasn't all that good in the game. I would just constantly spam a clothesline and then follow that up with a headlock. It was a party game for sure. Like we were talking about.
It was a good one.
Yeah, up to 4 players, and then we would just play tag team or four-man fatal four-way matches. Obviously, it was during the NWO era, so you had like Hogan, Sting, Giant. But those games were really fun. Yeah. The thing is about wrestling games is that they're not straight up like fighting games where you can't just spam combos and hope for the best. They're definitely more technical. You have to like span some strikes, and then you have to do grapples, which is a button of itself. Then slam the person to the ground, and then you could either follow it up by getting on the turnbuckle and doing a body slam, or then you could probably do a headlock or a submission, and then you run the risk of your opponent countering you and then making a different attack. It wasn't until Shut Your Mouth that's when I played those games very seriously. Almost every friend I have didn't play the game as seriously as I did. They'd rather just keep spamming the strike button and either play the game with no DQs just so they could hit each other with fucking chairs until they break. Like if the game had online features, I'd probably be a high rank player. That's how seriously I took the game system mechanics and shit. Because I always thought the way you play that game was actually pretty fun, even though it's a little slower pace than your average fighting game. And in a way, wrestling is a fighting game.
Oh, it is. You know what? Think about it. Special move. They have the special move.
Yeah, you build meter.
Yeah, to do that. You know what? Speaking of those wrestling games, you've played some in your day. Do you remember the WrestleMania arcade game from Midway?
Oh, yes, I do. Man, that game was fun. For those who don't know what we're talking about, if you're too young, there was a WrestleMania game for arcades. I believe it got a PlayStation port. And graphically, it looked like Mortal Kombat 3. They used digitized versions of classic wrestlers like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon. But the game has got a much more cartoonish attitude, so it feels tonally more like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. Like freaking Doink the Clown, his hand would turn giant as you slap you. Undertaker had like a fucking ghost beam projectile that kind of looked like Shang Tsung's projectile. Oh man, that game was so over the top and silly.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Remember the Undertaker, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a game called WWE All Stars that came out a couple of years ago, last gen. Now, when I heard about this game, a couple of friends of mine were in a Skype call complaining about it. It's like, oh man, they look like a comic book. So my assumption was, oh, they're probably going for a more cel-shaded route, more cartoonish route. Okay, that's interesting. Until I saw character designs for The Rock and John Cena. See, what they meant by comic book, they meant a comic book ... illustrated by Rob Liefeld. These characters look proportionally jacked up and shit. And the game had like weird over-the-top jumps and stuff, but it wasn't as over-the-top as the Midway WrestleMania game. It was fun, but it wasn't that. It wasn't. It still underwhelmed me.
Yeah, that's funny because why would you go that route? I don't understand.
I don't know. I think they were trying to make a fun arcade game, try to be like the WrestleMania arcade game, because the mainline WWE games have been getting more and more realistic. I mean, they actually tried to imitate the presentation of the wrestling TV shows, right down to the camera angles and stuff, and that's fine. Right. But I actually preferred the era from like the SmackDown era and the WCW versus NWO era, where they have a little bit of that, but they still actually had some really good music stuff that they would play in the background that you can fight in the game with. I did like some of the weird mid-2000s grunge metal music that they were using for SmackDown versus Raw, playing stuff like Breaking Benjamin and shit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what? Going to my experience, I remember I played the N64 games, and I wonder how those have aged.
They've probably aged better than I think.
Funny, we're talking about the N64, and again, that goes to that party system aesthetic with that game, because you could play up to 4 players, if I recall. I had, because I was big mark for I still am, but really big when I was in my freshman year of high school, I bought those WCW games for the PlayStation. They were pretty bad. That's Nitro and Thunder.
Yeah, I know those two, and I don't remember anything outside the fact that they actually have video promos during their character select screen.
That's the best thing of that game. Are those video promos. And you can go and watch those promos on YouTube, which I did not too long ago. But that game, though, the Nitro game and the Thunder game, played exactly the same. The problem was it wasn't bad controllers. It was really weird because aside from their special moves, all the characters attacked the same.
Huh. That's weird. That's not weird. That's lazy.
Yeah, it's very lazy. And then, but there was, especially in WCW Nitro, you can unlock all kinds of characters, stupid characters. You can even unlock Mean Gene Okerlund to fight as. So it was pretty ridiculous, but that's how they got away with it, because every character played the same.
Wasn't it in WCW Thunder that Kevin Nash had a promo where he's like, please don't pick me. Don't
Yeah.
select me as your character. I'll tear my quads once I walk inside the ring. He didn't say that, but
He said in one of them.
well, no, he didn't mention he didn't mention tearing a
Right.
quad. I
But
just
the
like to
don't
make
pick
that
me.
joke. I just like to make that joke because that's a joke for wrestling fans right there.
Oh yeah.
He fucking tears his quad while he walks inside a ring, dude.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
I saw the clip. It was pretty funny.
Oh shit. But anyway, yeah, that's the promo where he says that. The Goldberg one, he just growls or something, but they're pretty cool.
Okay.
Those promos are worth it to watch. The other thing that was interesting about Thunder though was they had a faction system. So all the factions were according as much as up to date at that time when that game was released. The characters were on the TV show, right?
Right.
But you could always change their faction.
Nice.
But the game wasn't very good. So, there you go.
I did not play Def Jam Vendetta, which I think is mostly a wrestling game.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Let's talk about non-WWE or WCW games.
Sure. I was segueing into that. But I did play Def Jam Fight for New York, which I believe is also on the Aki engine. That was used for WCW and WO. And that game was a whole lot of fun to play. Which is going to be crazy because it's a game about hip hop artists like Snoop Dogg and Busta Rhymes fighting it out. yeah, dude. Snoop Dogg, Method Man, Redman, Ludacris, Busta Rhymes, Henry Rollins, fucking Carmen Electra. They're all in that fucking game, and they do stuff they can't do realistically here. They do like over the top finishing moves and stuff. The game is really, really fun, and the story mode was actually really engaging too.
Really, for that game?
Oh yeah, the story is that it takes place immediately after Def Jam Vendetta, where D-Mob, who is played by Christopher Judge, you may know him as Teal'c from Stargate. You get him out. You get him out of a cop car, and now you work for him. But ever since it was word that he got in jail, Snoop Dogg's gang, and he plays the character Crow, starts showing up, and people are like fighting in different clubs for territorial control. Instead of just shooting each other, because they actually explain in game, if they start like guns a-blazing, they would just bring cops all over the place and start taking everyone down. So that's why they have these fucking underground street fights in different territories and stuff. And you pretty much fight for D-Mob for the first half of the game, but in the second half of the game, something happens where you're basically forced against your will to work for Snoop Dogg's gang. But yeah, the story was actually pretty entertaining to watch.
Okay.
And yeah, you play as a custom character, and the way the customization worked in the game is that after you T-bone the cop car, the officer gives a description, and it's actually kind of like the police sketch artist thing. That's how you customize your character.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty cool. If you could find that game anywhere for PlayStation 2, I believe it's also on Xbox and GameCube, not sure. I do suggest picking that game up because it is a lot of fun. There's reasons why people still want to make want to see a sequel to that game. I would like to see it, but the problem is this was an EA property.
Oh
yeah! Shit. If they were to make it now, they would fuck it all up in more ways than one. So I'm good with stopping at Fight for New York.
It doesn't come with Snoop Dogg. It comes as a pre-order bonus.
Yeah, pre-order.
And then Busta Rhymes is $6.
Yeah.
But then to get Busta Rhymes alternate outfits, it's another $2 for each of those. There you go. And then there's the loot boxes where you can't get Snoop Dogg's outfit. Pimp outfits, so there you go. But that's the only way is by random loot boxes.
I guess another franchise we need to talk about is the Fire Pro Wrestling franchise.
Yeah.
I have a copy of the one that's for PlayStation 2, and I played like 10 minutes of it, and then I haven't touched the game since.
Why?
The gameplay is a little too weird. It's like too time focused. I couldn't understand it, and I know there's one that came out recently. It's on Steam, and I believe it's on PS4, maybe on the Switch, maybe it will be on the Switch. Who knows? I want to just give that game a second chance because I know that one has New Japan Pro Wrestling material in it as well. But I know a lot of people love that game for its in-depth customization, where you can basically customize almost anything you want to your heart's content.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mostly the praise I've been hearing about that game. Not really much about the core gameplay itself. So that might be great for people who love to customize their stuff. But I like I said, I tried to get into it. I couldn't. Maybe I just need to spend more time with it. But let's talk about that one Fire Pro game that Suda 51 directed. But you should know what.
Oh, which one is that?
Oh man, I need to look it up.
I don't remember.
Okay, I need to.
Real quick though.
Okay.
While you look it up, I want to bring up Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Go ahead.
Have you ever played it?
Yes, I did, and obviously my main was Mike Hagar.
Yeah, from what I understand, that game takes place in the Street Fighter universe.
Well, if Hagar's in it, then yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that game was a lot of fun. How many of those did they make?
I want to say they made 2. I forgot what the second one was called.
It'd be nice to make another one, but that's more of a distant thought than the new Darkstalker.
The second one actually played less like a traditional wrestling game and more like a fighting game.
Really?
Yeah, it felt a little more simplified. But the first one felt like a straight up wrestling game, and they did have they have the artists of Fissa and North Star working on the character designs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, imagine the guy making the design for frickin' Metro City Mayor himself, Mike Hagar.
Okay,
so I believe the game was called Super Fire Pro Wrestling Special. That's the one Suda 51 worked on.
Okay.
And I heard about this game because it has one of the most darkest stories in a video game ever.
What, a wrestling video game?
Dude, okay, from what I've heard, your rival is basically a copyright workaround of Ric Flair. Style and profile. Yeah. It's characters that look like that's another thing about Fire Pro. They have characters that look like the ones wrestlers you know in real life, but they have like weird nicknames and stuff to work around the whole legal issues. But basically, I think he kills your mentor, and then he kills your tag team partner or whatever, and you win the belt, but it doesn't make you happy. I think you get a divorce, and the game literally ends with your main character committing suicide.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it literally ends showing like the out exterior of your house, then immediately cuts to black with the sound of a gunshot.
Well, from what I'm hearing,
I can see why that game never made it here to the States for the time.
Well, from what I understand, he's returning to that.
Yeah, I know, and everyone's reaction was uh-oh. Because of that. Let's see.
And this is a Super Famicom game.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I'm looking up the news article about Fire Pro right now. I do want to see that story mode of his. Let's see. Fire Pro Wrestling World. That's the most recent one. I might give that game a second chance.
What? I'm reading the synopsis. Yeah, I know you said it and all that. Why? What's the point of the story?
Because if you are familiar with wrestling, it is a very depressing business and lifestyle to go into sometimes. I think he wanted to show that reflection. I think he wanted to like show him because, dude, man, I remember watching that Wrestling Under the Mat documentary and all the segments involving Jake the Snake Roberts. Holy shit. I needed to hop up on antidepressants after watching that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sad business. I mean,
have you watched? Oh, go ahead.
This is a business where you get injured so many times you might die. You might die between your 40s and 61. And if you live past that, then you've exceeded the life expectancy of a wrestler, which is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Wrestling is really a hard business. And have you watched The Wrestler, the Darren Aronofsky? That's a pretty bleak movie too.
No, but I wanted to. Never got around to doing so, but it
You
was on my
should.
bucket list.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then there's those Dark Side of the Rings that came out between April and May.
Yeah, Jim Cornette kept talking about those documentaries and how fucking fantastic they are.
They
But
are.
the thing is, I don't watch a whole lot of cable television, so I'm gonna miss out on those A&Es. I hope it shows up in the streaming
They're on
service.
YouTube,
Oh,
free. I'll send
oh,
you the links.
well, in that case, I'll just watch that. Uh,
That's how I watch because I don't have cable either.
let's see. What other things we could? What other wrestling games we could talk about? I mean, there's those wrestling games that are based off of the Kaneko Man franchise, but I never played those, even though they look really fun.
Right, Kaneko.
Yeah, aka Ultimate Muscle. Um, Chikara Pro
Okay.
is apparently making a wrestling game.
Okay. Is that good or bad?
I've talked to Big Al on it on his live stream a couple months ago, and he did some he was entering a contest creating characters for their game, and apparently they have a crazy in-depth character customization feature that's almost as in-depth as whether Neverwinter Nights' DM mode. And he showed me like a good list. I should probably post a link to that live stream so people can know what I'm talking about, but in case they haven't seen it. But yeah, he was able to create Darth Vader even with his lightsaber and Superman with the cape. He was able to create Earthworm Jim and got his head shape correct. It wasn't like a human head with a mask over it. No, he got the Earthworm Jim head right. And I believe he actually took first place in the character design section, which he made this weird old 1950s looking robot, those very generic geometric looking robots or whatever. And I believe he might be beta testing the game. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like they're trying to go back to those WCW versus NWO roots. And I do want this game to be good. Obviously, I don't want any wrestling game to be terrible. But hopefully, I believe it's called Chikara Action Arcade Wrestling Game or something like that. Action Arcade Wrestling. So far, it doesn't look too terrible. But
well, you know what franchise we probably will never see again?
What?
Rumble Roses. Okay, I've briefly played a demo of one. That's my experience.
Okay, I'll give you my experience.
Okay.
First Rumble Roses game, I enjoyed a lot.
Okay.
Had a lot of potential. Rumble Roses Double X, did not enjoy much at all.
That's the 360 one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They added some new gameplay modes that aren't that fun at all. The character customization was completely weak sauce. There's no story mode. The way you have to win title belts was pretty fucking convoluted. They had some weird features and they had some weird gameplay modes that feel like creepy anime bullshit. And that's fine if your game is creepy anime bullshit. But I thought it would just be. I thought the game would just lean in more with a little more dignity than that. And obviously, and because that game sucked, it killed the franchise. It killed any hope for that IP's future. And because it was owned by Konami, well, yeah, don't even have your expectations up for a minute.
That's right, Konami.
Because
the only games,
the first Rumble Roses, it's like, okay, this is a little rough around the edges, but it had potential, and I like some of the character designs, like Reiko Hinamoto and Dixie Clements. But yeah, they just kind of dropped the ball with the sequel.
Yeah, yeah. I only played the demo of that Double X on 360.
I assume you didn't care for it much.
Eh.
Yeah,
Hey,
I did not even expect to talk about Rumble Roses, but I have that game.
I'm not saying this. I'm a fan of fan service. I'm a guy, right?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, but if the game sucks, fan service is not enough.
Exactly.
So that's why DOA up to 5 was great because it gave you both. Maybe 6 does. I don't know. What do you know?
6 is pretty much the same as 5 for the most part.
They finally made the girls look like they used to?
No, it uses the same graphics engine as 5.
Oh, okay. I meant with the sex appeal aspect because they were toning that down.
Yeah, they said that, and then they backpedaled on it pretty fucking hard.
That's not a bad backpedal, though.
And I didn't even when they said they toned it down, I didn't see any tone downness anywhere. Yeah, so they probably just fucking lied because they know these journalists are a bunch of assholes, shallow assholes who would just judge a game based on, a character's design.
Gaming journalists are fucking idiots.
I know, I hate them so much. That's why I'm not. That's why I don't want. That's why I don't want to read their articles.
Yeah, I don't really. I'll follow news stories and all that, but like Kotaku's fucking so liberal, and well, I'm liberal too, but I'm talking about social justice warrior bullshit.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I'd rather not talk about them.
Anyway, what? Let's end this on a note. On a good note? What is your favorite wrestling game?
Okay. I actually did have to think about this. A lot of people will probably want me to pick one of the 2 N64 games, but to be honest, I am going to stick with Here Comes the Pain. Mostly because it actually had a really good single player mode.
Okay.
It had both versions of The Undertaker in that game. Because this was like the last year Undertaker was the American Badass, when he was like a normal biker dude.
Right.
But Here Comes the Pain introduced legends, unlockable legends you could play as in the game. And one of the legends was Retro 90s Undertaker, back when he was the undead dude.
Okay.
And they also brought in great characters like the Road Warriors, Roddy Piper, the Iron frickin' Sheik. I played through that season mode, God knows how many times. I've been playing it with like the custom character, which, by the way, at the beginning of the game with the stats, your custom character was complete dog shit. But as you play through as you earn more experience, win more matches, you can beef up his stats, and he won't suck as hard anymore. And he can finally make it to WrestleMania. But yeah, and the game had very little voice acting. And that actually helped for its favor because your opponents, depending on your rating, it'll RNG your rival will RNG to be anyone else. So the dialogue is a little bit generic, but whatever. And then you can choose to be a face or a heel in certain arcs. It was just a damn good time. The only criticism I had for Here Comes the Pain was that the music was actually pretty terrible, and some of the ring entrance songs were not available for weird music licenses.
Copyright shit.
Yeah, for example, Rob Van Dam's theme, One of a Kind, even though it was available as Shut Your Mouth, it wasn't in Here Comes the Pain. Kane's theme song at the time, Slow Chemical, wasn't available. The Dudley Boys theme song, Bombshell, wasn't available. What was her name? Victoria, her theme song, All the Things She Said, that also wasn't available. So it would just be replaced by their production music or whatever. It was also the last time John Cena was a heel. If you remember back when John Cena was just this crazy, evil white boy who would just beat people up with the chain he wore around his neck.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that was fun.
We've talked a lot of
Here Comes the Pain. Here Comes the Pain. I would like to hunt down an old copy of that game again, because I just had a whole lot of fun with that the most.
Well, what I'm going to tell you, for me, is I had a lot of fond memories of that WrestleMania arcade game. Now, one thing I am going to track down is a fan translation of that Suda 51 game, because I have to see this and play it.
I saw the ending, but I do want to see the campaign from start to finish.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just how it just gets to that point.
Okay. But what I really like the WrestleMania game. That's one of my favorites, and I like Saturday Night Slam Masters a lot. Yeah. Those are really good games.
Good picks.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess I still have fond memories of the N64 games. One thing, though, that bugged me about the second of those N64 games, the opening montage cutscenes show people fighting in the backstage, but you can't fight in the backstage in the actual game.
Yeah, that was kind of disappointing.
I wonder if it was something they cut.
Yeah, I can always check that out. There is a website where you can check out. I don't know if you ever heard of the Cutting Room Floor.
No, I have not.
Cutting Room Floor, or tcrf.net, is a website that takes a look at the games. It data mines games and shows you like stuff that was not in the game, like unused audio tracks, unused soundtracks, models, and stuff.
Right.
And it would even sometimes tell you regional differences or whatever. They might have something on WCW NWO Revenge.
Xenogears is notorious for that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a big page dedicated to Xenogears.
Yeah.
I know they have a big page dedicated to, which Saga game was it? Saga Frontier, the one that was like mostly unfinished for the PlayStation.
Oh, Saga Frontier 2? No, 2 was finished. 1 wasn't finished.
Okay, I think it was the first one. I just remember seeing a big old page for it. Okay, so apparently, all I see is for WCW NWO Revenge. It's a very small page. All I see is apparently they were supposed to have a cage match in there.
Okay.
And Wrath. I don't know what wrestler Wrath is, but he's apparently his code is in the game.
Mm-hmm. I know who Wrath is.
Yeah, apparently he got cut out in the game for whatever reason. Huh. That's a pretty small file. Oh, well. But I think now's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah. So you got anything else to say, my friend?
Nope. Wrestling's still good. I hope AEW does well, because I would love to see some good old competition and an excuse to watch wrestling more regular this time.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for AEW. I hope they make a good game.
Yeah, you just have to pick your freaking publisher and developers wisely. Please.
Not EA.
Do not pick EA. Do not pick, God, who else should you avoid? Ubisoft, Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda. They're kind of screwing up right now. Like, dude, if you can find an indie developer, go right ahead. But you don't rush the art, obviously, because I don't know if you want to make these games annual. But right. Yeah, if you want to make a good wrestling game, just avoid EA at all costs, because they killed the UFC fighting games. Because I used to like them back when THQ had the IP.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh?
Yeah, those games were actually really damn fun.
You know what? I want an EA AEW game where John Moxley is a viable. You could buy him. Just saying. I want an EA game where there's only 4 characters. You pay $60 for 4 characters. And you got to buy the rest. But
Street Fighter 5 already came out.
Oh,
okay.
But I bought all those characters, so I like Street Fighter 5 though.
No, man, I want my characters to show up in loot boxes that can be hidden alongside a bunch of random aesthetic crap I don't care about. Like Titans. Yeah, man.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that game these days.
I don't know, man. But like I said, I'm ready to wrap it up here.
All right.
You can find my channel, Darkscream217. You can find Magus on MagusX1. You can follow me on Twitter, but I mostly just post updates to what's going on YouTube.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And yeah, that's about it.
As for me, you know where to find me. So with that, guys, Magus out.
And this is Darkscream signing out. Take care, everybody.